5 Indian brands.
5 brands, wow.
I think it's a little hard to name them because there's too many foreign brands.
As of now, we are producing garments that start with an FOB of maybe $4 a garment and retail at $40 a garment.
Individuals all with huge factories and all with huge bellies, they all want to come all over the world and do subcontracting for the whole planet because they can make money that way. Go on exploiting your workers, go on paying them in cash and going on making the big money. I'm sure there are a couple of millions who are going to hate me after this.
The government gives you subsidies. You take those subsidies. Of course, that's a benefit. It reduces your cost. Your margins are better. People want to buy with you. They want to produce goods with you. Plus, just the cotton we make or just the cloth that we make is much cheaper. That's because we drive our margins to such a low point where the standard of living of the employee is impacted so much.
Labor is so cheap in this country, so there's a huge profit margin on those products that are made in India.
We saw beautiful produce made in India available around the world, and almost none of this was available here. Behind factory walls, there were things of great standard being produced for the Western market. And I said, you're producing all these beautiful things for the West, so why don't you sell them here? Don't you think that if you produce it in this country, you should be entitled to it? So while there might have been textiles and brocades and very nice handlooms, this structured clothing idea was just beginning, and we saw really nice things, even that just used Indian techniques in the shape of a shawl, let's say, or a dupatta, that you couldn't buy here. And we thought it was odd, since we just moved back, that, 30 years after India became independent, the best produce was still going abroad, and that there was this new design sensibility happening, but there was no room for it. Retail was a nightmare.
Rohit Khosla was a designer when he was in the West, but here in India he was a stylist. So why are you not a designer anymore? Why? He said, because there's no place to sell. So I said, if there's a place to sell, would you go back to designing? He said 100%, and that's basically small concepts like that came together to provide a professional, comfortable retail environment to showcase things that were being made in India.
25 years ago, when everything was a little darzi department and you could make your own clothes and you had a tailor on call, to sort of bring together a platform where you would give a space to many designers. And at that time, I don't even think the designers knew they were designers or they were darzis. They didn't know it.
To create something that we felt, for lack of better use, was world-class, that embraced modern retailing and that really celebrated and promoted Indian design, which was very much a part of the craft, but there was something more to it.
We have said, you know what, this is beautiful and we are proud of it, and you will design under your own name and we will celebrate you and we will give you that show. And the magazines which have all sprung up will cover you, because now they understand that and they believe that our modern contemporary Indian design is as good as anything else in the world.
It was something you read about. Abroad, you went to a shop and you picked it off the shelf and you said, okay, this and this, and pick up something which you never knew about. And that was something so incredible. It's part of the expression. And we wore different clothes and we started changing and living Indian lifestyle in a different way.
And honestly, I think everyone has a sense of pride. Everyone has a sense of their work being recognized. And so it's one thing to make money exporting. It's another thing, to hold your head up high and sell in your home country.
I think it's iconic in a sense that it's one of the first stores in India which kind of forecasted the change that it would come to. So I remember at that time when On Summit started, I used to get model. And I used to think that would my clothes ever be there? And thought that one day, maybe, I will also be among all the senior designers like Abu Sandeep and Tarun and Rohit Bal. At that time, there was Rohit Khosla.
We used to have an office like this where people would just come with their collections and show it to us, and we would not just say yes or no, but we would say, no, but if you do this, this, and this, then come back to us, you know. It's like mentoring program also. I see something beautiful. To this day, I get excited, you know, and I get very excited about, then I go back to what is your business plan and where are you selling and what are you doing and how are you doing this, you know. I see it as an incubator.
Ensemble. It changed, I think, the whole country's way of thinking about, you know, whether it's fashion or whether it's modeling or whether it's advertising or anything. And I was really, really excited about it. Because I think we all were just loving this growing space that was happening in all of us, you know. But then, you know, just the whole experience when the music and the makeup and everything came on, you realize that there was, from that point go, just an evolving stage which was just going to take the Indian fashion to a completely different level.
I mean, you speak to the person who's weaving patolas in pattern, and I think his children want to go and do something else. You know, they feel that perhaps that's more viable. But I think for every one weaver in pattern, there are 9 who are running viable businesses today. And there are millions of people who've been given employment. There's millions of karigar whose craft has survived. There's, you know, a young kid who grows up in Bhopal can turn around and say, I want to be a fashion designer. That's huge, I think. You know, the master craftsmen have people who are, you know, who are still buying their clothes.
You know, a space is critical for luxury. You have to enter a world of magic. A world where you're better than yourself. You're not somebody else, but you're the better version of yourself that you've dreamed of.
Inadvertently or advertently, that it came at the cusp of a new way, a new wave, if you like, and that went past clothes, construction, retail. It really encompassed a whole range of new kind of Indian identity that was evolving, a new way.
The story of Ensemble for me is the story of Indian fashion.
What's the start of the Chanels? What's the start of the big names in Europe? Was that they started not with their own stores, but they started in those stores. They had the advantage of organized retail. Now, none of you have that advantage today. If you go and set up a shop in some place, you may, in 2 years' time, you may find the building demolished.
Creativity comes out of an ecosystem. It is not to be bought. You can hire the most creative people in the world, but if you do not have the ecosystem, it's not going anywhere.
Has there been the creation of any such thing, even for people to work? Rather, they threw them all out of the city. We were thrown out of Delhi. We were sealed repeatedly because of corrupt judges, because of, you know, collusion. You see, I mean, design always says, you expect people to come to Khansa for couture clothes. That's what happened when we were thrown out. In Paris, all the ateliers are in the center. You make the rules, you say these are how you'll work. You cannot do dyeing here, that's fine. But you have to let people work.
According to me, Indians have a mindset. If it's from abroad, it's damn good. That's the thing which every Indian, I mean, he, she, everybody has it in them.
I would prefer to buy a Western brand, like something like Mango over, you know, something. Yeah, definitely.
This is something that is so deep rooted. It's gonna take us hundreds and hundreds of years to like just get that inferiority complex out of our minds.
If you look at even our freedom struggle and the khadi and all, there's so much to be proud of, but how many of us really felt proud of it?
The reason why we've grown up thinking that Indian brands are not so good is, well, we were a closed economy for so long, and for the longest time, the quality that we produced in-house was not such a great deal.
If you talk about it culturally, I mean, India has always been really the beginning of all design as far as I'm concerned. And I think what happened during the 60s and 70s and the 80s, there was this mass hysteria about all things Western, where most Indian people, any kind of socio-economic strata, whatever you look at, all started aping the West immensely, trying to find an identity in other cultures.
We live in now and we are influenced by the world. And if our country doesn't feel current and hip, then everyone's going to jump ship and want polyester, which is what I saw when I was growing up. But we as Indian designers must design for Indians. We not long to discover that I loved the draped form because that's something my eye had grown up with. So I went back to FIT and did a very intensive of draping and pattern cutting and, having the ability to translate an idea into your head into something that becomes accurate, wearable, and technically correct fashion, essential tools to be able to further the craft. We have a cultural identity. We have an idea of what works for us. I'm saying, hey, you actually owe this to yourself to sit and feel a certain way, and your experience is how cocooned you feel, how amazing this feels on your skin, and the confidence it gives you, or whatever else you're looking for. In a very important way to kind of connect glamour, aspiration, dreams, and the personality together. That's what we want to do.
India was known for its great fabrics, for the fact that we could meet production deadlines and send garments for sort of your CNAs, BHS, Marks and Spencers. And what is very, very thorough, he brought back luxury into design. He believed that, you have to take the craft, you have to revive it, but not in the traditional sense of revival. He didn't just work with the weavers and say, keep the same silhouette. He took Indian fabric and gave it a modern twist. He modernized Indian fabric. He also forced everybody to realize, you come from a wonderful heritage of luxury, where each garment was produced lovingly, each weave was treated with respect. He brought slow fashion back. He brought luxury, design, a sensibility that actually existed in the Indian aesthetic and ethos, but we'd forgotten about it. Ensemble reminded you that you come from this really fine heritage and history, and it reminded you that you can afford it. It can be part of your life.
I design for Indians. I'm not designing for what the white women, it would be very nice to be in Harrods, but it's not my principal concern at all. A lot of this will become relevant to people around the world because the world is becoming a smaller place. But there's also a move to go back to our identity.
Do you see us in a job crisis? Do you see us in an economic crisis? What do you think we're doing wrong?
Well, I think there's a mixture of things. Certainly government policy is always to blame, and we in the opposition will blame the government. But there's also certain challenges which go beyond the government's control. For example, there is no question that Make in India, in a sense, has come at the wrong time. Because you're asking people to make in India when the things they could make in India, they would now rather not make with human beings anywhere. They'd make with machines instead.
Well, I don't want to comment on previous government's policies or just generally even whether exporters should have been supported or not. I think that any industry you support is always a plus because it gives you employment. Make in India, I think, is a unique concept because we're all making in India. It's just that we haven't been able to establish it.
What is Make in India about?
Let's put it this way. When I was exporting, the benefit that we would get would be something called DEPB. You could either take a duty drawback or you could take DEPB. Now, this was that we paid certain taxes in the domestic market, and if I was not using those products in the domestic market but I was exporting them, I would then get a refund of those taxes. And DEPB would be the main profit component. So there would be no other profit.
Economy started opening up, which was a very good thing. At that time, everybody felt, the whole world, that you need to be completely open. 2007, 2000, everyone got a thappad. So you need to be balanced.
I definitely see the Make in India, when I'm looking at the tags, when I'm secretly checking the size of the price, I can always see that it's made in India. It does bother me that there's 1 in 5 people in this planet are now technically Indian, and there's not a lot of presence. Like, we don't have a known brand that's Indian, like the Gucci's and the Versace's of the world have.
You will be amazed, but this is actually happening in the case of several international brands because of their so-called policies, that the goods are made with that label in Bengaluru being exported to Spain. Spain is exporting them back to India at a 200 or a 300 or a 400% this thing, and being sold. I mean, at times I question my colleagues working in those kind of firms that, look, why can't you just send from Lower Parel or Bengaluru to, Mumbai and sell it in your stores? And he says, Mr. Mehta, why to Mumbai? The Bangalore store, I have an exclusive outlet in Bangalore, 2 streets away. I cannot. I know that from my factory the garment is going to Spain, it's coming back here. But that's their policy.
It's a company that's not in India, that's making clothes in India, routing it back to India and selling it to me as an Indian. So I find that funny, and I wonder, well, how hard is it for people here to do it?
So that is where we believe that the Indian government should do much more to promote the Indian brands which are built in our country. And in fact, we have made various suggestions.
I don't think that the individual standalone retail labels are in any way competing with brands. We are our own space, but the only thing is, how do we make it into more structured and much bigger, so that in the days to come, you will have so many brands out of India, like the Amul story, but in the space of retail too.
That's great. You can be the factory to the world to a certain extent. China has done that, and now they've built their brands. Now, if you look at the brands, but they didn't have any brands earlier. They did it because they got economies of scale in their manufacturing. And once the manufacturing was sorted, they said, okay, we've learned. We've manufactured for Apple, we've manufactured for these guys, we manufactured for HP, we've manufactured for Motorola. Now, we know how to put together our own phone. We will brand it ourselves and sell it.
See, India is a very large market, and the larger the market, the larger the competition. So for small labels to establish themselves as brands means huge risk, huge amount of investment, and of course huge amount of employment generation as well, but that comes with its own baggage. So I think that we're ready to be established labels, but to be established brands in the current scenario would take a little more time. I think the talent and creativity is all there. The business acumen sometimes is what's lacking.
And we are scared, because even if I do take the world on, what do I have behind me to support it? Do I have policies? No. Do I have government support? No. Do I have social security? No. Do I have a highway which will get my goods to Mumbai on time? No. Do I have bank support? No. I've got crushing interest rates.
First Bangladesh, then Vietnam, then China. You're never going to stay the cheapest. So I think if you're thinking that this is the way to go, it's short term and it's foolhardy.
One of the things in most countries like Germany, for example, the small and medium sector is the real engine. We have got small and medium enterprises, but because we've got these policies which say if you grow beyond a certain size, you can no longer get these benefits. So nobody grows.
I have two problems with the Make in India strategy, which I think is a phenomenal strategy, and the Prime Minister is doing a great job marketing India as a manufacturing base internationally. One is that it seems to be focused on high capital investment and not labor sort of heavy industries. And the second, as I said, why should it be only for export? It should be for domestic consumption also.
I think India is an aspirational country. If you have a tea seller who can be the Prime Minister, it only shows you that dreams do come true. Rather than aping the West and seeking inspiration from the West, whether it's China or the rat race pace of any of the other countries, I think that we should really go back to where we belong from. But that can only be self-taught, it can't be imposed. And I'm sure a lot of the young yuppies, as you'd like to call them, the startups and the people in the entrepreneur field, do feel strongly about India. So I'm very confident somewhere we will be able to balance this import-export.
So what is happening is that there is a lot of focus on promotion, ideas of marketing, on hype, on billboarding, on using brand vocabulary, on using nationalistic vocabulary, a lot less focus on actually focusing on supply chain issues, climate suitabilities, working conditions, sweatshops.
Enough rhetoric. We're just sick of it.
The private sector also needs to pitch in and do their thing. So I think it's about opportunity. It's about a balance between opportunity for the private sector and what the government can do and create as a base.
But you need people with some vision.
We are seeing that a lot of the development of carpets for the global market are happening in the faster weaving process. But we are concerned that the weavers of carpets, who take 8 months to a year to weave a carpet, we don't want to lose that skill. And for that, we decided to create a different platform. Use famous Indian designers, use motifs that are from India, unlike Persia or Turkey, which is very common for carpets, and make carpets which are going to appeal to not only the global market, but also to the Indian market.
You help people in your neighborhood, you become the community, you help the street, you become the town, and it's small is beautiful. That's how you help each other.
It is often forgotten that India is not just Mumbai and Delhi and Bangalore. It is also the Bihar, it is also the UP, the Jharkhand, which is still living just about at poverty line or below, and they need to be protected. And today, if you keep encouraging imports from abroad, what is going to happen to their jobs and their livelihood?
It's not like we're importing anything that's necessary. It's not like oil that you have to do it. We're importing a whole lot of stuff that means nothing, You go to all these shops and it's full of Chinese goods. They've told me, start a line. You're a made in India. Go to China and just identify the handbags and we'll sell it for you. We'll do... Amazon's telling me that. Amazon doesn't care if it's made in India or not.
We say that this is the only unique country which has so many crafts, so many artisanal skills, and yet look at the way they are scattered and jumbled. The fine lines that should connect the industry and give it a holistic contour of an industry that works in tandem with each other. It's all scattered. It's like different balls have been thrown here and there, and is the government supposed to assimilate these balls and start juggling for us to make sense? Who is supposed to be the orchestra director? Who is supposed to hold and give tune to this symphony? It's hard to understand. It's hard to understand the ironies and the tragedies that have crept into the artisanal way of life in India.
I had written one article where I had said, should it be make in India or should it be make for India? And this is, it created a lot of controversy. Why is CMA taking this stand?
For example, if you say that I am only going to export, but nothing is sold locally, it will never happen. If I export or linking to global markets is an extension of your domestic activity. So if you don't have a strong domestic presence, you don't have strong domestic experience, you're not able to deliver it back home in your own country, just catering to global markets alone may not always succeed.
I think Make in India has to be made by Indians, for Indians, style for Indians.
India and Indians are proud of being Indian all over again. So there is this whole resurgence of an Indian ethos that has become extremely important.
Indian brands have a storytelling narrative. They are closer to people. They are closer to handmade. There is more involvement of the hand, whether artistic, aesthetic, heritage focused or not, more human beings are involved. There are parities of gender that we need to relook at. The way we grow our cotton, the way we spin our yarn, our khadi yarn, is different from what is done anywhere else in the world. This is the natural home of slow fashion. Slow fashion, which is a part of the new emerging vocabulary of sustainability, will have to be defined differently. An Indian brand and Indian brands has to be defined with slight reordering of the vocabulary.
What we need to do is actually encourage a smart ready-to-wear by Indians for Indians and give it pride. That we would be happy to look at doing unstitched things because a lot of middle-class women still wear that. And if they can get nice fabrics, beautifully printed, a simple thing that you just take to your tailor and get the thing set. I mean, there's nothing more to it. To find our own fusion, to find our own identity, and then it'll percolate down, and that's what's going to generate the most employment and pride for Made in India.
I would love if 10 years from now, I could get out there and say that I'm wearing X brand and it's a truly Indian brand.
I hope we don't lose our Indianness.